Welcome back to Starloop News, where Hollywood legends come alive in ways you've never heard before. Today, we revisit the extraordinary life of a woman who danced with Elvis Presley on screen and off. At 84, Ann-Margret is finally pulling back the curtain on one of the most speculated romances in entertainment history. And what she reveals isn't a fairy tale, it's something far more powerful. To the world. Ann-Margret was the fiery redhead who could match Elvis move for move in Viva Las Vegas. Their chemistry on screen was electric, unforgettable, and for many, unmatched. But behind the dazzling lights and choreographed routines was a deeply personal connection, one that changed both their lives forever. It was 1963. She was a rising star, he was already the king. But away from the cameras, their bond wasn't about fame. It was emotional, spiritual, even transformative. Ann-Margret now says they instantly connected on a level that scripts couldn't capture. Both came from humble beginnings. Both knew what it meant to rise fast and to be scrutinized even faster. They shared laughter, late-night rehearsals, private meals, and whispered confessions in quiet corners of the set. She saw past his rock and roll bravado to the man who longed to be understood. He saw past her glamorous facade to a woman who was sincere, grounded, and unwilling to play Hollywood's games. But their connection wasn't without tension. Viva Las Vegas wasn't just a film, it became a battleground of passion, ego, and unspoken feelings. They clashed over choreography, argued over musical ideas. One time, Ann-Margret suggested a provocative dance number to liven up a scene. Elvis pushed back, not because he disapproved, but because he feared losing the spotlight. Another time, he gave her advice on her singing, only to retreat when her performance outshined his. She doesn't blame him. She calls it insecurity, not arrogance. She remembers how he apologized quietly, admitting that her growing success made him feel vulnerable. Even with the world at his feet, Elvis still carried doubt inside. Off-set, things grew more intimate and more complicated. Elvis, ever the magnetic performer, often withdrew behind closed doors. Ann-Margret remembers nights when he'd lock himself away, unreachable. When she gently asked if something was wrong, he'd just say, "Just tired, baby." But she knew better. He was a man under relentless pressure, managers demanding obedience, studios chasing box office glory, fans expecting magic at every turn. Somewhere in that chaos, Elvis was losing himself. She recalls one quiet moment that haunts her still. During reshoots, she found him alone in his dressing room, slumped in front of the mirror, eyes red with tears. "Sometimes I feel like a puppet," he said, "and I don't even know whose hand is in me anymore." She held his hand and whispered, "I see you, and I'll meet you halfway, always." That moment changed everything. She wasn't just a co-star anymore, she was his safe place, the only one who saw the man behind the myth. But as their connection deepened, the world around them grew louder. Rumors ran wild. Managers grew nervous. Elvis, ever protective of his image, began pulling away. Their love was never made public, not out of shame, but because the spotlight is brutal. Ann-Margret understood. She kept their secret, even as it fractured her heart. The distance widened. He returned to Graceland. She buried herself in work and moved forward. But one late-night call in 1969 reopened everything. Elvis, calling from Vegas after a rough recording session, sounded fragile. "I feel like I'm losing my soul," he told her. And even though she offered reassurance, she could hear it in his voice. Part of him had already surrendered to the weight of being Elvis Presley. Their final meeting came in 1971. Backstage, after a reunion show, he took her hand, kissed it softly, and said, "Be well." He didn't turn back. She didn't chase him. They both knew it was goodbye. When Elvis died in 1977, the world mourned loudly. Ann-Margret did not attend the funeral. She grieved alone, silently. The love they shared was too private, too sacred to put on display. Now, 4 decades later, she's finally sharing the truth. Not to expose secrets, not to stir scandal, but to honor the man, the human behind the legend. She forgave him long ago, not for hurting her, but for being human. She forgave herself, too, for walking away when she needed to heal, Elvis wasn't just the king, she says softly, he was a man who gave everything until there was almost nothing left. She remembers the man who cried in front of a mirror, who whispered goodbye without turning back. And that's the Elvis she carries in her heart. Through her story, we don't just see the icon, we see the soul. Thanks for watching Starloop News, where legends live again, raw and real. If you felt something watching this, hit that like button. Subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment. From the stars who made history, and the ones who lived it in silence.